कृष्णकथोदयम् परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम
संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां
वक्षे कृष्ण
कथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम्
संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ
राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थानं च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ
राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्ष्ये कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्ष्ये कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्ष्ये कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्ष्ये कृष्णकथोदयम्
परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर्
जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्ष्ये
कृष्णकथोदयम् Anybody online? परीक्षितोऽथ राजर्षेर् जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्थां च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्णकथोदयम् Parikshitoth Rajarshir Janma Karma Vilapanam Samstham cha Panduputranam Vakshe Krishna Kathodayam. Synonyms: Parikshitaha, of King Parikshit. Atha, thus. Rajarshehe, of the king who was the Rishi amongst the kings.
Of the king who was the Rishi among the kings.
Janma,
Janma,
birth.
birth.
Karma,
Karma,
activities.
activities.
Vilapanam,
Vilapanam,
deliverance.
deliverance.
Samstham,
Samstam,
renunciation of the world.
renunciation of the world.
Cha,
Cha,
and
and
Panduputranam,
Panduputranam,
of the sons of Pandu.
of the sons of Pandu.
Vakshe,
Vakshe,
I shall speak.
I shall speak.
Krishna Katha Udayam,
Krishna Katha Udayam,
that which gives rise to the transcendental narration of Krishna,
that which gives rise to the transcendental narration of Krishna,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Translation: Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Saunaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of Lord Sri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. Translation with repetition. Suta Goswami thus addressed
Suta Goswami thus addressed
the rishis headed by Saunaka.
the rishis headed by Saunaka.
Now I shall begin the transcendental narration
Now I shall begin the transcendental narration
of the Lord Sri Krishna
of the Lord Sri Krishna
and topics of
and topics of
the birth, activities and deliverance of King Parikshit,
the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit,
the sage amongst kings,
the sage amongst kings,
as well as topics of
the
renunciation of the worldly order
renunciation of the worldly order
by the sons of Pandu.
by the sons of Pandu.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas and Mahabharata are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental, and when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Purana, but the special significance of this Purana is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Srimad Bhagavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana. There is a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavad Purana who desire to relish at once the activities of the Lord narrated in the 10th canto without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and thus more foolishly than intelligently they take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specifically told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Krishna and his pure devotees like the Pandavas are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees like the Pandavas are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha or topics of the Lord. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, it's our great fortune that we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, and a very important section of Bhagavatam, where the chapter is titled as The Son of Drona Punished, and we are yet to see how the son of Drona is going to be punished, but this is the beginning. Interestingly, there are verses in Bhagavatam which will not mention who is speaking. For example, this verse, it says, Parikshito atha rajarshir janma karma vilapanam samstham cha pandu putranam vakshe krishna kathodayam. If a reader is not careful, if a reader is not attentive, he will miss out who is speaking to whom. That is why it is important to keep a track of how things are unfolding in Bhagavatam. As we had seen in the previous chapter, Narada Muni, once he instructed to Vedavyas about writing something which is a direct glorification of the Lord, he left. That is how the chapter ended. And Saunaka Rishi immediately points out, what did Vyasadeva do? After Narada Muni leave, what was it that Vyasadeva did? That was the first question in the first verse of this chapter. Rishi Saunaka asked, O Suta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after his departure, what did he do? And then Sutta Goswami goes on talking, and we've been seeing all these verses, wonderful verses, where he says how Vyasadeva in his meditation could see Lord and Maya both simultaneously. It's a beautiful verse, that is 1.7.5. No, not this one, the previous one. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranhite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam cha tadapashrayam. And then he goes on to say how living entities, all of us who are accepting this material bodies, get subjected to the jurisdiction of Maya, the external energy. And what is the solution? How we can come out of it? Anartha upasamam sakshat bhakti yogam prayojitaha lokasya jananto vidvams chakre satvata samhita. That is why Vedavyas very carefully, meticulously wrote this Srimad Bhagavatam, because people who are suffering in this material world, they are not aware that this material suffering is superfluous to them. Anartha upasamam sakshat bhakti yogam adhokshaje. And the only way this can be mitigated or can completely be eradicated if somebody takes to the process of bhakti to adhokshaja. If somebody engages in devotional service to Krishna, automatically this anarthas will be mitigated. But lokasya ajananto, because people don't know, so Vedavyas compiled this Chakra Satvata Samhita, this Bhagavatam. Then we also saw Yasyam Vaishruyamanayam Krishne Parama Purushe Bhakti Rutpadyate Pumsaha Soka Moha Bhayapaha. Just by hearing, careful attention, by paying attention to this Bhagavatam, how Soka, Moha and Bhaya can be completely eradicated. Everybody in this material world is inflicted with this Soka, Moha and Bhaya. Soka is lamentation, Moha is illusion, and Bhaya is fear, fear of the future. Then after that, immediately Saunaka Rishi, he is asking a question, saying that Sri Saunaka asked Sutta Goswami that Sri Sukadev Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? This is Saunaka Rishi asking because Sutta Goswami told that, Vedavyas also explained this literature to his own son. So immediately Saunaka Rishi became curious and he asked this question. And in response to these questions, the previous two verses have been discussed. Beautiful verses. Atmaramascha munayo nirgrantha piyurukrame kurbanti ahetukim bhaktem itham bhuta guno hare. How even a person who is Atmaram, who is self-satisfied, gets attracted to the qualities of the Lord. Itham bhuta guno hare. And if somebody says bhakti is sentiment, he should think again, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives 61 explanation of this verse. Very powerful. And in the last class, we would have discussed Harer Gunakshaptamatir Bhagavan Badarayaneha Adhyagan Mahad Akyanam Niryam Vishnu Janapriyaha Nityam Vishnu Janapriyaha. Wonderful verses actually, which talks about the state of Sukadev Goswami and why did he hear Bhagavatam. Now today, Sutta Goswami, there is no mention, but Sutta Goswami takes charge and he says, now I am going to talk to you about Krishna Katha. Vakshe Krishna Kathodayam. Very interestingly, he is saying Krishna Katha, but he is telling that I am going to talk about Janma Karma Vilapanam and Samstham Cha Panduputranam. He is going to talk about Janma Karma Vilapanam. Janma is birth, Karma is activities, and Vilapanam is deliverance. So whose Janma Karma Vilapanam is he going to talk about? Parikshito Atha Rajarshir. I'm going to talk about that Rishi, who's a Raja Rishi, who's a sage amongst the kings, whose name is Parikshit. I'm going to talk about his Janma, Karma and Vilapanam. I'm going to talk about his birth, his activities and his deliverance. Janma, Karma, Vilapanam, Samstham Cha Panduputranam. And the second thing that I'm going to talk about is, how did the sons of Pandu take renunciation? And why did they take renunciation? These are all very, very important topics. And as the word says, Kathodayam, Vakshe Krishna Kathodayam. When we hear this, when I'm speaking about this, Sutta Goswami is telling, Krishna Kathodayam, actually in our heart, Udayam, it will be sprouted, it will arise in our heart. What will arise? Krishna Kathodayam. Krishna Katha will arise in our hearts. That is the verse. The translation goes like this. Sutta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Sonaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Shri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst the kings, as well as the topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, there is a mention by Krishna where he says the effect of hearing the birth and activities of his. Anybody knows the verse? Raise your hand, don't say. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Krishna says, if somebody knows his birth and activities, there is an effect of that. Something happens. It's half raised. Should I take it? Okay, full. Okay. Okay, Mukund. Yeah, what is the verse? Huh? Okay, let's give it to Bhakta Jay. He has also raised his hand.
One who knows me and remembers my activities is immediately freed, is immediately liberated from material bondage.
Anybody else wants to try? Okay. It's close, but you just missed out the first part. One who knows me, you said. One who knows my birth. Janma karma chame divyam. One who knows my birth and activities which are transcendental. Both Lord's birth and activities are transcendental. And one who knows in truth. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha. In totality, in completeness. Tyaktva deham, when he quits his body, Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti. He doesn't get rebirth again. Na iti, ma meti, but he comes back to me. Ma meti, janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti, ma meti sa pandavaha. He'll come back to me, there is no doubt in this. It's a very important verse for people who are conditioned, who are in this material world, who have got so many plans, who don't realize their precarious position, that they are accepting different bodies, life after life. This is a clue which the Lord gives, that if you just hear about my birth and activities, which are divyam, which are transcendental, then when you are quitting body, you will not take birth again. You will come back to me. Same Krishna Katha, Sutta Goswami is going to narrate. But interestingly, he is talking about Parikshit Maharaj's Janma Karma Vilapanam and Pandu Samstham Cha Pandu Putranam. That is what is something which we should pay attention. Even though Sutta Goswami is telling that this is Krishna Katha, but this is actually the Kathas of the devotees of Krishna. There is devotee of Krishna called Parikshit, who's the sage amongst the kings, Raja Rishir, Janma Karma Bilapanam. He's going to talk about the birth activities and deliverance of Raja Rishi Parikshit, and he's also going to talk about Samstham Cha Panduputranam, yet they are classified as Krishna Katha. Because the devotees of the Lord carry the Supreme Lord in their heart. They are interlinked. They are inseparable. That is why the activities and the birth and the deliverance of pure devotees of the Lord are also non-different from Krishna Katha. Prabhupada will clarify that. We will see. Let us understand this verse. It's a beautiful verse. Very, very powerful verse. Very interesting verse. Let us see some of the points that we can take from this verse. First of all, I would like to bring your notice to the two kinds of discussions which is happening in Bhagavatam, or there are two kinds of listener and speaker. One is Sukadev Goswami talking to Parikshit, and the other one is Sutta Goswami talking to Sonaka Rishis. Very interesting to pay attention to this, because why Bhagavatam is so special. If you don't know, there is a place called Sukatal, which is there on the banks of river Ganges, which still exists, the place where Sukadev Goswami spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit. Now, who is this Sukadev Goswami? We have been seeing, there is a question which was asked by by Sonaka Rishi. Sukadev Goswami was already liberated. Why did he have to go through, understanding this vast literature? Means he got very curious about this. So let us understand the position of Sukadev Goswami. Very interestingly, Sukadev Goswami appeared on this scene or this arena just like that. There was no business opportunities. There was nothing like a monetary gain. He was looking here and there. He was jobless, and he just was casually going. And it's not like he appeared there thinking that there could be some future prospects for me. The word used in Bhagavatam is yadrishi. Very interesting word. Yadrishi. Just by that, by Lord's arrangement, by the will of providence, he appeared there. Who's this Sukadev Goswami? You can see in the picture, Sukadev Goswami is hardly 16 years old. Body is very well formed. Long hairs, very beautiful, touching his shoulders. He was walking naked. He was not having any clothes. And he was walking naked. So imagine if he's going through a forest or if he's going through a village. Somebody asks, "Hey, where are you heading to?" Sukadev Goswami was quiet. So people thought maybe he is deaf. He is not able to hear. Then they asked him, okay, no. First people thought, okay, maybe deaf. And again, when they persisted, did some actions, he's not able to even speak. So they thought probably he's dumb. So there were children who were making fun of Sukadev Goswami. Such a some naked person, he's walking, very beautiful, yet he's not able to speak. Vidhira Vidhan. That's what in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is mentioned. Some providence, somehow unfortunate the Lord is, or how he has created a person who is so beautiful, yet he is not able to speak, yet he is not able to hear. That is how they were making fun. They were throwing stones and things like that. But this Sukadev Goswami, when he entered the arena where all the sages have assembled, everybody bowed down. And when just that one small incident, when that happened, all the women and the children, they realized their position. They thought, they just were taken aback. They all left from that scene. They all left from that arena. Who were there in that assembly? There were sages like Vyasadev, his guru, Narada Muni, all other great sages, they were seated. Everybody unanimously thought that Sukadev Goswami is the right person to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. Very interesting. This is how somehow, people in this material world, we are also like those women and children who do not really understand what is the supreme absolute truth. We live life confidently, making fun of other people, thinking that we are in control of our own lives, we can do anything. Little do we realize that the transcendental knowledge, it has a different qualification that one can have. And when somebody, age is not a real bar, age is not a measure. It is not like old people only can have this transcendental knowledge. It is how much we are able to remember the Lord in our life, how much we are constantly in remembrance of Him. That is the biggest qualification. Sukadev Goswami, That is why Harer Gunakshipta Matir. His mind, his consciousness was absorbed. Kshipta Matir. Akshipta is fully absorbed, like a gulab jamun or a rasgulla, which is completely soaked in that sugar syrup. You put it in your mouth, you can actually get those sugar syrup. Their mind is completely absorbed in Krishna Katha. No other things, no other distractions. That is why it is so auspicious, so glorious to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. I've heard about a story, not sure how much true it is, but nevertheless, it's worth knowing it. You know, in this assembly of sages, when people have, they have assembled to hear from Sukadeva Goswami, it is mentioned in one place, there were some demigods who came to hear. Who were the demigods? Where do they live? Huh? कहाँ रहते हैं देवता लोग? हाँ? इंद्रलोक, है ना? कहाँ पे? हेवन को क्या बोलते हो? स्वर्ग लोक में रहते हैं. So ये देवता लोग, they also came down to hear Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. Why? Because they saw Parikshit was such a great king, such a great devotee. You know, imagine a person like we wake up in the morning with lot of difficulty, and some of you travel also some distance to come and have the darshan of the Lord, Mangalarti. For Parikshit, the first Mangalarti, the first darshan that he had was the Lord in the womb. And in the mother's womb, he could see the Lord protecting himself with the weapons. How fortunate he is. That Parikshit, he's about to quit his body, he's going to Vaikuntha Loka. So the demigods also came from heaven to hear. Can we also hear this? How this is going to happen? What Sukadeva Goswami is going to say? So the demigods were not allowed. But what they thought was they will carry some Amrit. What is Amrit? Nectar. They carried some nectar. They always have nectar, right? So they brought some nectar, and they thought that, imagine what happens is, when we sit here, like I myself also find it difficult for 1 hour. If you have to sit, we start doing all kinds of these things. Abhi bas karo, band karo, like those kind of symptoms, unspoken words. So if you are sitting in that arena, this is going to be for 7 days and 7 nights. If you have some knee pain, if you have some hand, this thing, some problems with this thing, if you take nectar, everything will be cured. You will have no pain, no this thing. So they brought this nectar so that people can drink, and they'll be, whatever their ailments or problems are there, it is gone, and they can hear attentively. In return, they should get this benediction to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sukadeva Goswami, so like that this word spreaded, and it came to Sukadeva Goswami, and when Sukadeva Goswami heard that this devatas have come with nectar, he just sued them away. Get lost, you people. You're all mercantile people, you are all business mentality, you're giving this nectar to, get the actual nectar about Srimad Bhagavatam, you don't deserve. So some of the acharyas from other sampradaya, they comment that actually in the planets of heavenly planets, in the higher planets, there is no opportunity available to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And look at our great fortune. We are getting this opportunity, but how casually we take it. हाँ चलो यार कौन सा भागवतम आज एक क्लास होगा सुन लेंगे. How serious we should be, how attentive we should be. But in Bhagavatam class, apart from all of us, there is one more person who always attends. Who's that? Huh? Who? Prahalad, okay. Hanuman ji. अच्छा ये तो नया वाला मैं सुन रहा हूँ, okay. Huh? Who? Brahma. Okay, you're not confident. Huh? Okay, yeah, but who always attends? Always there. Krishna. She's always there in our heart, okay. I'm saying a person like you, sitting there next to you, you're not able to see. Prabhupada is there, I can see. Without him, what I can speak. Narad Muni, no. There is also Yamaraj who attends, but I was not looking for that answer. There is another person who attends. She is there in the Mataji's side. Huh? Tulsi Maharani we can see. Huh? Radharani? Maya Devi, Kunti Devi? It's actually Nidra Devi. Nidra Devi is the most chaste woman. She comes where there is sadhu sangha. She doesn't go to place where there is loud music going on, some movies are going on. She doesn't go there. People are very active, alert, they look at like this. And when it comes to sadhu sangha, when there is discussion about the supreme absolute truth, Nidra Devi comes and she sits there. She pays attention and ensures others go into Maya, the lap of Maya. But anyway, it's important to know all these things. How Srimad Bhagavatam is so special, and how this narration which we are getting a chance to hear because of the mercy of pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada is so special, and how we should be so serious about hearing this. Let's see the purport. In the first line of the purport, Prabhupada writes that Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activities. It's a very interesting line which Prabhupada is saying. He's talking about how Krishna is so merciful, so merciful. Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities, not just human being. He comes as tortoise, he comes as fish, he comes as half lion, he comes as Srimad Bhagavatam, he comes as the holy name, he comes and performs these wonderful activities so that conditioned living entities who are forgetful of their constitutional position and real goal of life get attracted to these activities. And when they get attracted, they will develop a desire to go back to him. That is why the Lord keeps coming. Actually, the Lord need not appear. There is no reason for him to come. He is Atmaram. He is self-satisfied. He is Swarat. He is not supposed to have any kind of, there is no need. But he is concerned about the people who are suffering in this material world. He has deep compassion. That is why he again and again he comes. He appears in different incarnations and he performs this wonderful activity so that people can get attracted. But look at our misfortune that despite all these activities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here 500 years back. Krishna performed these pastimes 5,000 years back. If you go to Vrindavan, these places are still alive. So wonderful places. We can actually get inspiration and can get that motivation and determination to practice devotional life and go back home, back to Godhead. Yet we are busy. We are busy with our own plans, our own activities. We think that somehow or other, if I work hard, if I do some adjustments in life, somehow I can be happy in this. That is where Krishna very beautifully in the form of Kapila Muni says this verse in Bhagavatam, Yam yam artham upadatte dukkhena sukha hetave tam tam dhunoti bhagavan puman shochati yat krite. Yam yam artham upadate. All of us, we work hard to earn money. Yam yam artham upadatte dukkhena sukha hetave. With this goal that I will get that happiness. Somehow, yam yam artham upadate. Hard work, lot of labor. For what? Sukha hetave, that I'll get happiness. And for that I go through lot of miseries, dukkhena, lot of hard work. But what we don't see, tam tam dhunoti bhagavan puman sochati yat krite. Whatever I'm earning, whatever I'm working hard, the means that I'm having to enjoy this material world is destroyed by the Lord. Puman sochati yat krite. And when that happens, when the means are destroyed by the Lord, as the time factor, a person laments. Whatever is produced by the materialist with great pain and labor for so-called happiness, the Supreme Personality as the time factor destroys. And for this reason, the conditioned soul laments. The idea of I can become happy, I can become content, I can become secure, I can become settled in material world doesn't exist. Yam yam artham upadatte dukkhena sukha hetave. People are working hard, a lot of hard work. Why? They have a goal, they have an aspiration that somehow or other I'll be happy. Sukha hetave. But tam tam dhunoti bhagavan puman sochati yat krite. They lament when the Lord as time factor takes away all these things in our lives. Very powerful verse. If you don't understand, if you don't still get this, I want to give you a very contemporary example. Anything special that is happening today worldwide? Yeah. Today. Oh, you don't have to search now. If you know, you don't know. Anybody? No. I'm not talking about spiritual thing. I'm just talking about material world. What's happening today? Okay. Huh? What is that? I'm not saying that's not the one. I'm saying something else. The clue is Qatar. Very good. Okay. So there is a FIFA World Cup which is happening in Qatar. I don't know how many of you know, but it is worth knowing. Some of the things in around us which are happening, we don't pay attention, and we think that life is after all, life is very glamorous, very nice, and so many things, so many good things are happening. We should be happy about it. We should feel satisfied about it. Today is the day when this FIFA World Cup in Qatar, this is happening, and this is the first time Qatar, a small country, is hosting this World Cup. FIFA World Cup happens once in 4 years. Before this, 2018, it was hosted by Russia. Before that, it was hosted by Brazil. And now this is hosted by Qatar for the first time. Something very interesting, you pay attention what I'm trying to say and see how Bhagavatam and the scriptures are so true in our life. Qatar won the bid to host the World Cup somewhere in 2009 or something. So now then 2014 was hosted by Brazil, 2018 was hosted by Russia, and 2022, which is starting today, is hosted by Qatar. Any idea how much is the expenditure that Qatar would have incurred to host this World Cup? Just a rough idea. 1 billion? Russia spent about $15 billion 2018, and Brazil also spent almost equal to 10 to 15 billion US dollars for hosting in 2014. Any idea how much Qatar would have? 1 billion is less, very less. Huh? 44? 100 billion? 100 billion? More than 100 billion, yeah. More than 100 billion, it can be anything. It's actually 200 billion US dollar. Roughly. So what do they do? So you see this stadium that you are seeing? They just had one stadium like this. And now Qatar has about 8 stadiums to host this World Cup. And these are all very unique structures, not easy to build. Now, what happens is, how do they build this? They get all illegal immigrants from India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. And there is no care for them in terms of their life insurance and things like that. And there are about 6,000 to 8,000 people who have died in construction of this stadiums. You see how things become very difficult or very challenging in our lives. This is just an example of a country. Qatar, just for your information, got independence in the year 1971, much after our country's independence. And Qatar used to have, it is not a very rich or a prosperous country until 1971, when they discovered that there are a lot of oil rigs are there in that ocean, that bay, that whatever they have. And they started digging and they started getting money and they started getting oil, and from that money, and it became suddenly prosperous. Now Qatar wanted to make a statement in the world arena saying that we can host this World Cup. So they will build stadiums like this, they will build hotels, they will build good roads so that people can come, and it becomes a good tourist hub. Now interestingly, when Qatar is doing all these things, I told about one challenge that how the Indians and the Bangladeshis and Pakistanis who are going, they died. There are about 8,000 people, and there's a lot of criticism for that. There is no care, there is nothing which has been taken care about them. Another challenge is Qatar doesn't have the right environment to produce grass. Grass is required for football match, and they don't have. So they have to use some very complicated technology to have this grass in the stadium. Bigger problem is, if you look at this map, which is there on the side, Qatar is a very small country. Okay, and this is inside, this is located, this is actually a bay. Next to Qatar, there is a country called Bahrain, there is UAE, there is Saudi Arabia, and there is Kuwait. All these small, small countries, they are all there. The moment they heard that Qatar has announced that it is going to host the World Cup, they immediately cut off the land routes and the sea routes to reach their country. They imposed restrictions on Qatar, 13 restrictions. You cannot do any kind of transactions with these neighboring countries just because Qatar is hosting this World Cup, just because Qatar is becoming progressive, just because Qatar is making some progress. What did Qatar do? Qatar thought, okay, even if my neighboring countries are not supporting, they are not helping me, let me do transactions with Iran. Iran is quite far. And they still survived. Somehow, they could do this and they survived. Now that, these neighboring countries are seeing that actually there are so many athletes, so many visitors, so many fans who are going to come, they have removed the restriction. They've removed the restriction without even Qatar agreeing to those restrictions that they had imposed. Why? Because they don't want to lose out on these business opportunities. When these people come, they can come to our country. And when they come to our country, our economy will grow. They don't want to miss out on that. Why I am giving you this example? Our life is also like that. Sorry, somebody is saying something. Sukadeva Goswami? Yeah, I'm trying to. See, basically what happens is in our life also, we will be living an ordinary life. One fine day, something good happens in our life. Like, they discovered that there is an oil rig and they can, get money out of it. Something good happens to us. We get some good degrees or some good company or something like that. And with that, we get this false confidence. Now I can show off. I can do anything. Now it is my power. I have got all the rights to display my opulences. And I do that. I live life like that. What I don't realize, the moment I show that, immediately my near and dear ones, they become envious of me. They become jealous of me. They try to put me in some kind of difficulties. If not that, even this whole thing that I am trying, it's all futile. Who knows what's going to happen? Whether this country will sustain this kind of economy, whatever investments they've made, nobody knows. That is why one of the very key, very, very fundamental thing in our life, which we often forget, we forget to acknowledge the presence of the Lord in our lives. We forget about it. We think it is all, I deserve this. It is because of my hard work. It is because of my all planning and this thing. I have gotten this. I am supposed to enjoy. Very interesting verse, very interesting thing in Bhagavatam where we can learn a lot, which Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, and I'll bring that. This is a conversation which is happening between Yudhishthir Maharaj and Arjuna. All of us, we know about Pandavas before, right? We would have heard about Pandavas. But when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we get to know that Pandavas are great devotees of the Lord. Prabhupada brings this point very, very emphatically. They're not ordinary people. That is why Sutta Goswami is telling Samstham cha Panduputranam. Samstham cha Panduputranam. How did these Panduputras, why these Pandavas renounced this material world? Why it is so important for us to know? Because Pandavas are great devotees of the Lord. There is a very interesting episode which comes in Bhagavatam. It will come in another few chapters, where Yudhishthir Maharaj had sent Arjuna from Hastinapur to Dwarka to find out what is Krishna's plan. Now the battle of Kurukshetra is over. The Kauravas have been defeated. Yudhishthir Maharaj has been coronated. Yudhishthir Maharaj wants to know what is the plan of the Lord. Actually, it's a very crucial point. Most of us live our life and we come and pray to the Lord only so that the Lord can, bestow some benediction by which my plan gets successful. That is good. Most of the religions, people do that. They at least acknowledge the presence of the Supreme Lord, but that is meant for satisfying my plan. We don't bother about knowing what is the plan of the Lord. We don't even see this. Here Arjuna, who has gone there and he has seen that, Krishna has left this planet and he's coming on his way, and it is a devastating loss. He's not able to speak. And Yudhishthir Maharaj is constantly asking him, what happened to you, Arjuna? Why are you crying? What happened? Did you get defeated by someone? Or was there, like a Kshatriya, for them, the defeat is a very important thing, very big thing. Were you defeated by someone? What happened? And he's also seeing so many ill omens. At that time, Arjuna speaks this verse, which we should always remember in our life. Tad vai dhanus tad ishavaha sa ratho hayaste soaham rathi nripatayo yata anamanti sarvam kshanena tad abhut asad ishariktam bhasmam hutam kuhakaradham ivoptam ushyam. Very, very interesting verse. Arjuna is saying, actually Arjuna was, when he was trying to even protect the, Nidra Devi has already attacked. People are, it's not easy. Tad vai dhanus, Arjuna is telling, I have the same bow, the same Gandiva bow in my hand. Tad vai dhanus, tad ishavaha, I have the same arrows. Saratho, the same chariot. Hayaste, haya, the word is used, tatasvetar hayar yukte, that hayas is referring to the horses. Tad vai dhanus ta ishavaha saratho hayaste. I have got the same Gandiva bow, I have got the same arrows, I have got the same chariot which is driven by the same horses. Soham rathi, I am the same chivalrous fighter. Soham rathi nripatayo yatan anamanti. All the kings used to pay respect to me. But sarvam kshanena tad abhut asad ishariktam. Sarvam kshanena, just in one moment. Sarvam kshanena tad abhut. Everything asat, everything has become null and void. Why? Ishariktam. Because Krishna has withdrawn that power. Ishariktam. And then he says 3 examples he is giving. Bhasmam hutam. When we do the fire sacrifice, yajnas, right? Where do we put the fire? Ghee. Where do we put the ghee? In the wood, in the fire. But imagine if this thing is completely done and only ashes are there and somebody is putting ghee in that. Bhasmam hutam. In the ash, if you put ghee, it is not going to be lighting up. Bhasmam hutam. Kuhakaradham. Sometimes you go to some magic show and the magician produces some money, 10 rupees for you. And he'll call you and give you 10 rupees. So you keep it in your pocket. Again, after that, another magic wand, again 10 rupees. But really, can you use those monies? If he can create like that unlimited money, magicians would have been the most opulent people in the world. But these are all maya. These are all not true. Kuhakaradham, the money which is produced by magic wands. Ivoptam ushyam. Imagine there is a barren land and somebody doesn't know about it. It's a unproductive land and somebody crops it and tries to put some seeds. It is like that. So what the verse is trying to say, if we don't see Krishna in our lives, if Krishna is missing, everything is null and void. Very interesting verse. I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them at a moment's notice have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land. So we should always remember, we should not be proud of borrowed plumes. Something which is given to us, which we have borrowed from someone, and if we feel proud of it, that's not right. Everything, buddhir buddhimatam yasyam, tejas tejosmiham. Krishna says, actually I am the ability in people. Sabdakhe Paurusham Nrishu. So Krishna is the ability. Everything is given to us by Krishna. If we become forgetful of that and we feel pride in that and we think with this I can be happy, that is the biggest illusion, biggest mistake. Ishariktam, the moment it is withdrawn, if we forget the presence of Krishna in our life, it's all null and void. It's nothing. Classic example of this, in Vrindavan this time, there was a Sobha Yatra. It was a Rath Yatra. I attended for the first time. I'm told this is happening for the 3rd year. So the deities of Radha Vrindavan Chandra will be taken in a nice chariot and they are going around the temple, the bigger temple premises, and beautiful sound system has been arranged. The singer who is there is expert singer. He's singing a very melodious tune and everybody is enjoying, but all of a sudden, if the power goes off, it happened actually. He's still trying, Hare Krishna, with all vigor, with all sincerity, but who can hear that? Who can do what? If Krishna withdraws the power, like it happened in the case of Arjuna, because he has different plans, he wanted to wind up his pastimes. Same Arjuna, same Gandiva, same chariot, same arrows, but he could not even protect those wives of Krishna. And he was nothing. Sarvam kshanena tad abhut asat ishariktam. When the Lord is not there in our heart, is of no use. It's what happens is, often we don't realize the presence of the Lord in our lives and we live independent of it. Imagine I can see that sunshine is falling here through this window. If the sunshine is here, it is obviously understood that sun is there in the sky. You cannot have sunshine without the sun. Similarly, our existence is completely dependent on the Lord. We are His. We are His part and parcel. There cannot be an existence of us without Krishna's presence. But unfortunately, we live our life always in forgetfulness of Krishna. We think we are independent. We think we can do anything that we like on our own. What we don't realize is the invisible hand of Krishna which is there, which is sustaining. Even our life, our existence is completely dependent on the presence of the Supreme Lord. Which verse in Bhagavad Gita? Very interestingly, it comes in the 7th chapter. Mattah parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mai protam mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. Sutre maniganaiva. Sutre, the word sutra is very important. Sutradhar, they say. Sutra is the one that is holding this. That is the invisible thread which is holding this beautiful necklace. We all appreciate this so many wonderful manifestation of the Lord in this material world. Beautiful trees, beautiful garden, beautiful mountain, waterfall, all these things we appreciate. But what we don't see, it's actually appreciating those beautiful pearls, nice texture, nice color, nice pattern, very nicely hold. But what is holding this together is that sutre maniganaiva. Sutre, that sutra is the invisible hand of the Lord. If somebody becomes a devotee of the Lord, understands from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is able to see the hands of the Lord always. He is always remembering that. That is the difference between Sukadeva Goswami and ordinary conditioned living entities who are struggling. They don't see the hands of the Lord and they suffer. They make their own plans and they go on doing something, and the end result is they accept different bodies. Imagine you join a new company. You joined, right, recently? How many years? 1 year. Mataji, you joined? Not yet. Okay. But you join a new company and the company is giving you a lot of facilities. Nice phone bills are taken care, nice home, ACs, everything, car, everything is taken care, and you do your own business. You don't take care of whatever the company wants you to do. You have your own plans. Very soon they will figure it out and they will fire you. Similarly, the Lord has given us so many facilities. There is sun, there is moon, there is wind. All these facilities are given to us. We don't even acknowledge this. All these facilities are given to us in this human form of life which we are utilizing. We should at least understand what is the plan of the Lord, why I am here. And I should engage in His service. I don't do that and I do my own plans. I have my own things I'll take care of my family, children. I can't do that also. But I think that I'll do that and I am busy in some other activities. This is how life goes away. That is why in the purport, Prabhupada writes, any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord. That is why a connection with the Lord is a very important thing. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord, is to be understood as transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas, Mahabharata, are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental. And when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Purana, but the special significance of this Purana is that activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Srimad Bhagavatam is thus recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana. Very important because this is related to Krishna. He is asking about Samstham cha Pandu Putranam, Janma Karma cha Bilapanam. Right? These are all related to somebody else. But still, this is related to Krishna. That is why we should hear. With Krishna, everything becomes transcendental. And when we hear about them, at once we become also transcendentally related with the Lord. This is the secret. The next thing which Prabhupada mentions in the purport, they are under the false impression. There are some class of people who think that only the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives the description about the activities of the Lord. Remaining 9 cantos are useless. So Prabhupada is writing that they are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna. And thus more foolishly than intelligently they take to the reading of the 10th canto. More foolishly than intelligently. These readers are specifically told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. You are in which grade? 8th? 7th. Imagine if I give you tomorrow 10th grade subject, some higher calculus, mathematics or something like that, which he is doing, which is struggling, or integration by parts, ILATE. Okay, no, you are doing good now. Just saying. Or for you, if I give you something like Laplace transformation or Fourier series and integral, so what am I supposed to do? No, you read, no? This is the same thing. Actually, we need to go through the first 9 grades, then only we can go to the 10th grade. We can understand what the subject matter is, then we can pass the exam. If we don't go through the first 9 cantos, what we will understand about the 10th canto? No, nothing we can understand. That's what it is mentioned. When we hear, when we go through systematically the first 9 cantos, then we understand the real position of the Lord. Then we can appreciate his activities. And the last thing which Prabhupada is mentioning is Krishna and his pure devotees like the Pandavas are on the same plane. This is what I was telling. We have heard about Mahabharata, we have heard about Pandavas, but when we hear Bhagavatam, we get to know about this fact that Pandavas are great devotees. Krishna and his pure devotees like the Pandavas are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees like the Pandavas are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha or topics of the Lord. To conclude our time together, I wanted to tell 2 verses, and with this we'll close. It's a very interesting thing. You heard so many things. The final conclusion of this is, what is this Krishna Katha? How should I hear it? What is the benefit of hearing this Krishna Katha? And this is very beautifully given in this conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. Very, very nice. Just pay attention to this. Very small thing, but very, very interesting to know this. Charitam tasya rajarsher adi rajasya sattama bruhi me shraddhadhanaya vishwaksenashrayo hi aso shrutasya pumsam suchirashramasya nanvanjasa suribhiridito arthaha tad gunanushravanam mukunda padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. The translation of these verses are very interesting. Oh, best of the virtuous, the original king of kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. This is Vidura asking Maitreya. Charitam tasya rajarsher. You see the word rajarshi is also used here. Rajarshi is referring to Manu. Manu was also a king, but also a saintly king. Charitam tasya rajarsher adi rajasya sattama. He is the original king. Adi Rajas is the best of the original king. Was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead. Why? Vishwaksena Ashrayo, because he has taken shelter of Vishwaksena, another name of Lord Krishna. It is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager to hear. And then he is telling Shrutasya Pumsam Suchirashramasya. These verses actually we should remember. We should memorize this. But I want to highlight some of the things from this. First thing is, from whom should we hear? How do we? Can we hear Bhagavatam from anyone and everyone? Is it allowed? Or whom should we hear? This verse says, Nanvo Anjasa Suribhir. Suribhir, the word Suribhir refers to the pure devotee of the Lord. We should hear about Lord and his devotees from the mouths of pure devotees. When we read Bhagavatam as the commentaries, the purports of Srila Prabhupada, these are his transcendental ecstasy, we are actually hearing from the pure devotee's mouth, Suribhi. So not just from hearing from anywhere, any source. No, the source is very important. Source has to be pure and bona fide. We should hear about the Lord and his devotees from the mouths of pure devotees. The second thing is, what should be the quality of the hearers? How should the hearer how should they hear? And this is given in this verse very nicely. Two words which are used, Shraddhadhanaya and Suchirasramasya. Shraddhadhanaya means very eager to hear. The audience should not be like like I was giving in the example in the beginning, not like, we are waiting when Nidra Devi will come and attack us, and then we are forgetful of everything, and then Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, chalo, let's go to the prasadam counter. That should not be the thing. Very eager to hear, Shraddhadhanaya. And Suchira Shramasya, hearing with great labor for a long time. It's not like one time, once in a week, some Sunday I come, sometimes I don't come, few days gone, then you say, bro, आया तो था मैं last week में था, अभी थोड़े 2 हफ्ते इधर उधर हो गया, अभी क्या करेंगे? No, Suchira Shramasya, hearing with great labor for a long time. What should be the topic of hearing? Can we hear anything that we feel like? Okay, now there are some Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Devotees Association is there. I come and then I start talking about anything? No. As we saw in this verse right now, which we saw, Prabhupada is writing the devotees and the Lord. Krishna Katha is what we should hear. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha or topics of the Lord. Very clearly defined. What is Krishna Katha? That is why Viduraji is asking Maitreya Muni about life of Swayambhuva Manu. The words Rajarashir, Viswaksena Ashrayo very well brings out the great qualities of Adi Raj, the original king Swayambhuva Manu. He is not only a saintly king, but he had also taken the full shelter of Viswaksena, Krishna. And the last thing is, why should we hear about the Lord and his devotees from his pure devotees? Why? And very beautifully, this is something which we should pay attention in this verse. Prabhupada is writing, Anushravanam Mukunda Padara Vinda Hridayeshu. And the word Anushravanam is translated as thinking, not as hearing. This is the clue. And in the purport, Prabhupada is writing that the pure devotees are doing Anushravanam, means they are constantly thinking about the Lord's lotus feet in their hearts. The difference between our lives, ordinary devotees and exalted devotees, is we hear Bhagavatam class, we forget it then and there. That's it. At the max, the moment you step out, till that time maybe it's little bit, because any questions, maybe I have to ask some questions so people will be alert. But the moment we go out, everything is over. That should not be the case. And that is mentioned in Bhagavatam itself in the 12th canto, 13th chapter, 18th verse. Shrunvan supatan vicharan paro. Shrunvan is to hear. Supatan, study, not just patan, not just reading. Supatan, vicharan. Vicharan is to contemplate. When we contemplate and apply even a small thing in our life, very small thing, makes a huge difference. This is what is the difference. People hear, they just appreciate something, and then they go back in their life. But this Anushravanam is contemplating on what we heard, or constant thinking of the transcendental qualities, discussion of the glorious character and activities of such pure devotees, and the Lord are non-different from him. Therefore, they have the same effect on the hearers. Such hearing will purify the hearts of the hearers and would also invoke love for Supreme Lord Krishna and his devotees. So these are some of the important points from this verse. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Jagranthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.